Welcome to Reston's African American Legacy Program. I'm Laverne Gill, and it is my pleasure today to introduce to you and Beverly Cossum, who is well known in Reston, almost a Reston legend in and of herself. Beverly, how long have you been here?
I came here the summer of '66 to audition for a show, and I've been here except for a brief 18-month period. I've been here ever since.
So when you came here, you were already in the arts because you're a cabaret singer, an actress.
I was in the arts, but I was in a marriage at the time where I could not perform. I was being restricted, and so I saw this audition, and I said, I'm going to do that. I don't know where that came from, but I came out and auditioned for the very first show in Reston called The Greatest Game in Town, which is where I met Bob Simon.
And he, of course, considers you one of his favorite people in all the world, a recruiter for Reston.
I tried.
Yes.
I really did.
Well, we're both native Washingtonians, and here we find ourselves in Virginia.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but my mother was very disappointed that I moved to Virginia.
My entire family went nuts. Everybody said, why are you going there?
Why are you going there?
And I kept saying, no, I'm not going to Virginia. I'm moving to Reston. Mm-hmm. They didn't understand that differentiation, but it was totally a different place, totally different.
Well, you came here and you started so much. I mean, you've enriched this community so much with the things that you've done. The Reston Orchestra, the chorale. I mean, you've been involved with all of those things.
I've been involved with all of them. I was one of the founding members of the chorale. Mm-hmm. And growing out of that first show came the Reston Players. And that, Frank Matthews was a Reston resident and ended up owning the Hayloft Dinner Theater. And so, and it's interesting because a lot of the people who now work at the community center once worked at the Hayloft Dinner Theater too. So it's like life takes a big circle. But we had a music camp that a lot of people don't know about for the first year. Dr. Fole, who had the Brevard camp, tried to do a music camp here, but it was too early. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I was the treasurer. Whoa! So we worked in. We would have a project and raise the money. Oh. Have a project and raise it. Yeah, that doesn't work too well. So a lot of people don't remember the music camp. But the thing that I liked was it was open, it was welcoming, and somehow I was repressed, and I know this. After you go through therapy, you understand these things. So I know that I was repressed when I came here. This place opened me up. I did things that if I had continued to live in D.C., I don't think I would have done.
Well, that's interesting because it was almost like a wide open space to begin anew.
It was. And the thing that was so great, and I always talk about, is the women had such a voice. And I had, for so long, my voice had been silenced, and all of a sudden, women were doing things. It was liberating. It was so, the air literally was different here, because I still worked in D.C. And then when I would come home, I could exhale. It was really terrific. We had a performing arts camp. We did performances that a lot of people don't remember over where Brown's Chapel is now. Mm-hmm. We did things like Three Penny Opera, and this was, to me, utopia. And it was, you drove along the highway, and then all of a sudden you were in this wonderful place. It was terrific. Reston. Yes, and there was an article of the first group of us, of African Americans who were here. Ebony did a cover story on us because there were so few of us, and this place was so new, and they were trying to get people to come out here. But I didn't feel that I was different. Mm-hmm. I felt that there was some sort of way, it felt that whatever you had to offer, there was a place you could offer it, and it was accepted. And you going down on Sundays to the to Lake Ann, the different groups, people came from all over the world to live here. This was just, I mean, it was such an exciting place to be. It was.
Were you involved with Reston Black Focus?
Yes, I was.
Were you one of the founders?
I was not one of the founders. I was one of the founding performers, and that's where I met Dingwall Fleary, who is now the conductor for the orchestra, where I'm president of that board. But yeah, and the very last show we did was Bubbling Brown Broadway, over and filled the Herndon High School.
Well, you know, it is so great because when I first came out here, there was this Reston Black Focus, and I just couldn't. It was always the festival, and then it kind of disappeared. Well, I guess it's multicultural now, but it disappeared. But Reston Black Focus disappeared.
Yeah, and it should not have. I was one of those people standing in the back screaming and yelling when it disappeared, because we had one of our people who decided that it was not inclusive enough. And to me that was kind of crazy, because on Sundays you'd go down and there would be Armenian dancing, or there would be dancing from another country, and all of these countries were being represented. Why wasn't our voice there? And it was not an outside force. It was within our group that was killed. And I say, bring it back. The multicultural festival can live right alongside that.
Well, you're now president of the Reston
Community Center.
Community Center.
Yes.
So you have just been a leader in all things Reston.
Yeah. Yes. We had a session, and they said, give you one word to describe you, and I said provocateur. And that can be, yeah, you see, we have issues. We have issues. But to me, that is both positive and a negative term. And I look at it as a positive, because I'm the person that you want to push out front, because I'll say what everybody's thinking, but is afraid to say. And so at the moment, one of my biggest things is trying to get us, not just me, but the board, we're trying to get a new rec center and a performing arts space that will handle the chorale. And I was also, you know, I was founder of the chorale, and they need more space, and my orchestra needs more space. So we're still working on that. And so I'm front man to get the brickbats first.
Well, you know, there's so much to talk to you about, and I really wish that I had the time to talk to you about
Well,
it.
I said I can't say my name in 9 minutes.
Well, I know that's the truth. But we do want to say we appreciate everything you do.
Oh, and I appreciate you. This is a wonderful idea, and thank you for including
maybe
me.
sometime you'll come in and be a co-host.
Oh, thank you. Surely. Oh, my goodness.
You are a pioneer, and you are one of Reston's
you.
best.
Oh,
And even though we have issues,
yes.
I just love you.
But that keeps us connected.
That's right.
Because when we solve them, it's over.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be back with Reston's African American Legacy Program. I'm Laverne Gill.
Welcome back to Reston's African American Legacy Program. My name is Pamela A. Hart Stewart, and I am your host for The Next Generation. And I am thrilled to have this beautiful lady with me today, Vanessa Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and I'm thrilled to have you here because of what you do. I was so intrigued. Well, especially when I saw my mother walk in with one of your pieces. Your business is Vanna's Hands. Vanna's Hands Crochet Designs.
Yes.
Which I think is just so unique in itself because it's crocheting.
It's crocheting.
It's crocheting. So before we get into what you do, you're a Restonian.
Yes.
You moved here when? Tell us about when you came to Reston.
Oh my gosh, I came to Reston when there was just bales of hay rolling down the middle of the highway. It was, I guess, 1976.
Wow.
77.
3 years after we moved. Okay.
Yeah, 1977. Just kind of came up through Fairfax County public school system. Well, actually, Reston's school system. All of the terror sets. Also went to Langston Hughes and South Lakes, and you and I, of course, were
Went to
in Jack and
school.
Jill in
Absolutely.
school, and
Jack and Jill, yeah.
and all kinds of things together.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And there was a time where we didn't see each other.
Right.
But then when we kind of reconvened, I heard about all of this design, fashion business that you're in.
That's
so
right.
tell me about your journey into it. Tell me how you came across doing design.
Well, basically, I guess I just love fashion. I love clothing. I think when you wear something amazing, it brings out the best in you.
Yes, that's true.
But initially, I started off giving the designs as gifts, and so when people, family and friends, started suggesting that I sell, I looked around for different venues, and so actually I started my first commercial venture at the Reston Lake Ann Crafts Festival.
Oh, yes.
Every Saturday, being out there in the sunshine, talking to people, finding out about their, fashion perspectives, and, just kind of fine-tuning what I do as, an artisan for the people. Yeah.
Right. And you're unique, obviously, again, with you doing the crocheting that you do. You're very unique. So how do you come up with your different designs? What motivates you?
Well, making people feel fabulous, basically, in what they're wearing. There's kind of a special glint that comes into people's eyes after, during the final fitting. So it's really about that. It's really about just determining what it is that people want, and bringing that joy
Yes.
about their attire to them.
Absolutely. Well, it's good. Well, let's introduce a model of yours. You brought someone to the show to show us exactly how beautiful your work is.
Yeah.
And wow, this is amazing. Please share with us what we see here. This is a beautiful outfit.
This is Sarah Balaker, and she is modeling the ruffled cardigan. Basically, the ruffled cardigan was kind of a blend of sort of contrast, where you have the oatmeal, which is kind of like a conservative look to it, a conservative hue to it, but then it's kind of contrasting with the wild ruffly look. She's got
fall colors. I like this. As we move into the fall season, this is beautiful.
So, and then she's got the waistcoat, like a double-breasted waistcoat here. She can button it up so that she's got like a something like a muffler up top, and it's an open knit. So you've got the opportunity to wear a tank top underneath it, or you can layer it with a nice turtleneck, or you can be as warm or as cool as you like.
It's beautiful. Different yarn. Do you have different yarns? Is it cotton? Is it different?
Yeah,
it just depends on what you make.
Broad range of yarns that I use. Sometimes I love everything. Actually, I love I go from the gamut from acrylic to llama to milk yarn to
and that'll
silk
be the price. Usually
yarn.
it kind of varies with price depending on the yarn and time. I would think there's a lot of time in this as well.
Right. Depends
That's
on the
beautiful.
intricacy of the design. The halter top is again like sort of a play and contrast. You've got the autumnal colors of the autumnal color of brown, but then you've got of course, the warm weather design. And then she's got, just a bit of scrumbling along the bust line just to add volume there.
It's amazing.
And then
I can definitely see your time. It's definitely a lot of time into this. Sarah, thank you. You look beautiful. I love it. You absolutely look wonderful. Now, with everything that you design, is it women, men? Obviously, Sarah had a beautiful outfit on, but will you make something for a man, or maybe do you have a variety of different outfits?
Yeah, basically what it is anybody that approaches me, I'll make a piece for. It could be a blanket, it could be for pets, it could be like I said, once again, I run the gamut, but just basically the customers that I've had so far are sort of design their pieces off of a prototype, like
Nice.
I have, just different outfits that they can, sort of select, and they can add style elements to it, or they can, take away some style elements.
Sure. Now, I know that Reston is not known for fashion. We're just not known for fashion, so share with us some of your travels that maybe have influenced you.
Well, I have to disagree, Pam. I
Really?
do. Yeah, I really think that Restonians are stylish and elegant.
Okay. Would that come from
especially
DC? I mean, is it because we're so close to the metropolitan, DC, or what would
Well, and I guess, I think too, like, especially with the Silver Line, I don't know if you've ridden the Silver Line
I have been
yet.
on the Silver Line.
But when you go underneath and you look at that architecture, it's really, it really inspires you to want to be fabulous as this architecture is for the
So you
Silver
have
Line.
an eye. It's an eye that you have, because I may not see it, but you see it because of the line of work that you're in, if you will.
Well, yeah, there's that, but then there's also, I think there's a uniqueness, and an element of design that, sort of lends itself to, bringing style to Reston.
Right.
But yeah, as far as my travels go, I lived in fashion capitals like LA, spent almost a decade in LA and Manhattan, but also visited Paris, visited Algeria. Visited Tunisia, and so the first collection that I made, because at that time, at the same time as doing the crafts fair, I was, also traveling, and I really wanted to get to the Sahara. So I was, looking at all the different pictures, and I didn't make it there. I just stayed in Algiers, but the Sahara colors really spoke to me. So you'll see a lot of that and reflected in my collection.
Good. But before we wind down, I really want everyone to know, give us some of your accomplishments, because you've been at the Kennedy Center. So share what you're doing now and some of your accomplishments, if you would.
So aside from the showing and also selling out of Old Town Alexandria boutiques and also downtown Silver Spring. Let's see, I've been doing wardrobe work at the Kennedy Center. I've done some, just shows sort of up and down the seaboard.
That's wonderful. So we will look for you. We will
Yes.
look for you. There's more to come. For
Yes.
sure. And you're an inspiration to me, because what I'm wearing is a piece of yours, which I absolutely love. I love the feel of the cotton, and I love how it's very light and airy. So thank you for letting me wear this today. We
Yes.
want to give you a gift of thanks for being on our show today.
Oh, thank you.
And yes,
Thank you.
Vanessa,
Oh
thank
my goodness,
you.
this is beautiful. Thank you, Reverend Gill. Thank you. This is
So
beautiful.
absolutely, we want to thank you for being on our segment of Next Generation, and we want to thank you, Reston's African American Legacy Program. We'll see you next time.
Welcome to Reston's African American Legacy Series. My name is Laverne Gill, and I am so honored today, along with my co-host Cheryl Fields, to introduce to you two people who knew someone very special. Oscar Haynes was a friend, a religious person, a person who gave of himself generously, a person who had a welcome smile whenever you walked in the door. He made you feel like you were the most important person in the world. And so we're here to celebrate his life and to talk to some people who knew him well. Zachariah Haynes, his grandson, and Bill Jackson, a member of United Christian Parish, where Oscar was a member, along with his wife, who is the pastor of that church, Reverend Joanne Bell Haynes. We had a celebration of life for Oscar a couple of weeks ago. And it just made you feel that you were in a special place because so many people thought so highly of him, and deservedly so. Zachariah, tell me a little bit about your granddad.
He always had a good smile. Always smiled wherever he was. Never had a downside. Always looked on the positive side. He was a reporter. He reported on the Tuskegee Airmen, and during World War II, while he was a reporter, and he gave me this shirt, which I wear every week I can and every time I can.
That shirt had red tails on it.
Yes.
Do you know who the red tails were?
Yes, they were African American pilots who were in World War II.
That's right.
And did you read articles that your grandfather wrote about them?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Bill, he was a member of your church, but he was also a good friend. Tell us your memories.
Yeah, I called Oscar my running buddy. It's an odd thing, but I think it's very difficult to describe Oscar because he was so unique. When you met him, he made you feel a certain way that you've never met a person like that before, and it was all sincere. I smilingly thought one time, I said, you know, when Oscar met Joanne Bell and made a decision to marry her, she was doomed because Oscar's style is him. When you meet him, he's real. And when he decided he wanted to marry the lady, she's not going to turn down because he was sincere and he made you feel like you were the most important person in the world.
He was a charmer.
And it was natural. That's the problem. It was natural. He didn't put it on.
No.
We were together at the barbershop one day, and the barber was playing music. Oscar said, "That's very nice." The barber said, "Do you like it?" I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Here, you can have it." He just gave it to him. So when you meet Oscar, or when you met Oscar, you were meeting a very unique person, and it was all real. Now, you may attribute it to a lot of things, mostly his religious background, his training, but Oscar was one of the most sincere persons you ever want to meet in your life. He was always concerned about you. You couldn't do anything for Oscar, but Oscar always wanted to do something for you.
That is so true. And he was a walking history book.
Oh, yeah.
He could tell you everything about the Tuskegee Airmen, about the Civil Rights Movement, about World War II. I mean, just everything. He was just a walking history book.
I have some granddaughters, and they didn't know anything about Oscar, and they came to church, and they were introduced to Oscar. And all of a sudden now, they've adopted him as their grandfather. He's adopted them as his granddaughters. That was Oscar. When you met him, you had met a real gentleman.
Zechariah, there were about 80 years between you and your grandfather, right? I mean, he was about 80 years older than you. So I'm curious, what kinds of things, you talked about the Tuskegee Airmen, but what kinds of things did he teach you? Did you learn from him?
We learned a lot from each other. He taught me the Bible, about Jeremiah, God, Jesus, everybody like that. He was a person you could have a good conversation with about anything.
How about you, Nate?
That's so true. That's so true. If you started talking about spirituals, he could tell you the history of the Negro spiritual. He could tell you anything, and it was just right at the top of his tongue. And one of the things that I remember someone saying at his celebration of life was that he was the kind of person that just allowed you to open up. And he opened up to you, and he was such a spiritual person. I mean, his life, you could tell that his life had been a life where he really took his religious faith seriously. But more importantly, he lived it. And you could see it in him. You know, some people say you can see God in everybody, but you could really see God in Oscar. And it was just a wonderful experience to be around him.
But the other thing was that he made you feel so special. And he wasn't trying to make you feel special. He just did.
Yeah, well, you know, his wife usually said he was drop dead gorgeous, and that helped.
She didn't stand a chance when he was got ready to
I think the other thing that I loved about Oscar is that, you know, relatively speaking, he lived in Reston for a very short period of time, but the number of lives that he touched and the profound impact that he had on people was pretty considerable. The artist who painted this portrait, Jill Banks, when I called her to ask if we could borrow it for the show, she was just effervescent and talking about how in interviewing him as part of her paintings, she painted 100 portraits in 100 days. She just really loved the time that she had painting his portrait and Joanne's.
Well, that was the effect he had on people, and it was natural.
It really was. Well, we've been talking about one person, and we really recognize that this is a special time for her. But I would like to ask Oscar's wife, Reverend Joanne Bell Haynes, to come forward and take this gift for him.
On behalf of the African American Legacy Series.
Wow. I want to thank you for this honoring of one who was just special to us, but then we realized that he really belonged to the whole world. And so when I say beloved about Oscar, I said our beloved. He belonged to all of us. Thank you so much for taking the time to remember him.
Thank you.
And this has been Reston's African American Legacy Series. And we are we're in memory of Oscar Haynes, a very special person. Until next time, I'm Laverne Gill.